After studying this module, you shall be able to know who is a leader and what are the characteristics of a leader, what are the various forms of leadership styles, what are the various theories of leadership, how various factors affect the choice of leadership styles. Introduction. A leader is often defined as a person who leads. He may be a business leader or a political leader, but what is common between them is that they have followers. They have the charisma and power to influence the behavior of others, and this they do to achieve a goal. One of the greatest leaders that the world has seen is Mahatma Gandhi. Under his leadership, India got its independence. In the following paragraphs, we shall see the various types of leadership styles and the theories of leadership which have evolved with time. Who is a leader? Till date, there is no universally accepted definition of the term leader or leadership. However, there are certain characteristics and features that are often associated with leaders and leadership. These characteristics are given below. Relationship. Leadership is a relation between two sets of people. One set of people are the leaders and the other set of people are the followers. Next, followership. Leaders are people who lead and influence a group of people called the followers. The followers give the authority to the leader to take decisions on their behalf. The followers suspend their judgment and do not question the decisions taken by the leader. Next, situational. Leaders often arise in specific situations. Hence, leadership is situational. A leader may be born within a group of people to meet the challenges created by a situation or a circumstance. Continuous process. Leadership is a continuous process wherein the leader influences the behavior of its followers and motivates them to work towards the achievement of the goal. Psychological process. Leadership is a psychological process where the leader influences the mind of a group of people who readily, without any questions, accept the decisions made by the leader. Now we will discuss about the various forms of leadership styles. There are various forms of leadership styles. These forms are discussed below. The first is autocratic style. In an autocratic style of leadership, the leader enjoys all the powers and likes to keep a control over his followers. He exercises all the decision-making powers without consulting them. The followers do not question the leader and his decisions. They unquestioningly follow his orders. This form of leadership may give rise to frustration, low morale, and conflict amongst the followers as they are made to do things without being given a chance to be heard. This also curbs their creativity and innovation. This style of leadership may prove to be disastrous if the leader is weak and incompetent. However, an autocratic style is suitable in situations where quick decision making is required and where the followers or the subordinates are inexperienced, lack expertise and knowledge, and the leaders are highly competent and there is very little room for error in decision making. This form of leadership is best where the organization goal is to increase the productivity or the output. This style is very often used by the military while dealing with the situation. The next style is the democratic style. In a democratic style of leadership, the leader takes decision in consultation with his followers or subordinates. The leader's authority is decentralized. The followers are given adequate responsibilities and given a chance to participate in decision-making process. This style of leadership gives a lot of job satisfaction to the subordinates and also boosts their morale. This kind of leadership is ideal in situations where the followers are competent and can help in making appropriate decisions. However, this style is quite time consuming and hence may be unsuitable where quick decisions have to be made. In a company, the CEO often takes important decisions in consultation with his board of directors and key managers. The next style is free rein leadership style. In a free rein leadership style, complete delegation of authority is given by the leader to his followers or subordinates. The subordinates are fully responsible for the decision taken as they are free to make their own decisions. This form of leadership is well suited in organizations where goals and objectives have been properly communicated to the subordinates and also where the leader has full faith and confidence in the ability of his subordinates in making appropriate decisions. It is best suited in a situation where subordinates are expert in their respective fields. For example, hospital administration, educational institution. However, the difficulty with this kind of leadership is that it may create chaos as all subordinates may take their own decisions and hence the organization may proceed at cross purposes and ultimately degenerate. Now we will discuss upon the theories of leadership. The first theory in discussion is trait theory. According to trait theory of leadership, a leader is defined as a person who has certain traits. Hence, a leader is a personality who inherits traits which his followers do not possess. According to Keith Davis, there are 4 traits found in a leader which are as follows. First, intelligence. Leaders are supposed to have more intelligence and knowledge than their followers. Second, social maturity and breadth. Leaders are quite mature than their followers. They have a very high frustration tolerance as they are not easily pulled down by defeat nor they become overly jubilant on their success. Also for them, the interest of the group or the organization is more important than their personal interest. Next is inner motivation and achievement drive. They have an achievement drive within them that always motivates them to go higher in life. They are never satiated with achievements. After achieving one goal, they set the target to achieve another goal and hence all their life they keep on setting goals and make plans to achieve those goals. Next is human relation attitudes. Leaders cannot become leaders without followers. Hence, a leader has a very good sense of human relation. They are often considerate of others and their requirements. They can easily connect with people and influence them. The trait theory is often criticized because there is a high possibility that the traits mentioned for leaders may be present amongst the subordinates as well. Also, which trait is more important to make a person an effective leader is a matter of debate. The next is behavioral theory. Trait theory seeks to define a leader on the basis of what leaders are, whereas in behavioral theory, leaders are defined on the basis of what leaders do. Hence, a leader is what he does and not what he is. In the following paragraphs, we are going to discuss the various behavioral theories given by researchers. The first is the Michigan studies. The Michigan researchers found 2 kinds of leadership styles. They were the following: employee-centered, production-centered. In employee-centered style of leadership, the leader tries to influence the employee performance. He does this by creating the subordinates well and by showing concern for their well-being. Also, he encourages them and involves them in decision-making process. On the other hand, in production-centered, the leaders try to influence the productivity. In this, the leader emphasizes on technical aspects of the job and work standards. The employee is closely supervised and is treated as a tool in the production process. According to the Michigan researchers, the employee-centered style of leadership is more rewarding than the production-centered style of leadership because production-centered style of leadership often frustrates the subordinates and lowers their morale, which ultimately results in unsatisfactory performance. The second is the Ohio State University studies. The Ohio State University researchers identified two leadership behavioral styles. They were the following: initiating structure IS and consideration C. Initiating structure means the extent to which the leader defines the various activities to be undertaken by the subordinates in order to accomplish the organizational goals. Consideration, on the other hand, means the ability of the leader to make the subordinates approachable to him. He establishes a rapport with the subordinates by having a two-way communication with them. He listens to their problems and finds a solution for them. According to the researchers, the initiating structure and the consideration were independent and distinct from each other. Hence, a leader should be practicing both the initiating structure style of leadership, that is production oriented, as well as consideration style of leadership, that is employee oriented. But Fiedler criticized the findings of the study as, according to him, consideration and initiating structure are not independent dimensions. It is not quite possible for a human being to be both production oriented and employee centered at the same time. As they both are distinctly different behaviors, therefore a great degree of flexibility will be required on the part of the leader to make the transition from one style of leadership to another style of leadership. This is quite impossible for a normal human being. The next in discussion is the managerial grid. The managerial grid theory was propounded by R. Blake and Jane S. Morton. According to them, the two concerns, that is, the concern for production and the concern for people, are two leadership behaviors which are not separate and isolated. They are two sides of the same coin. People and production are complementary rather than mutually exclusive. The two terms, concern for people and concern for production, are attitudinal rather than the behavioral concepts of consideration and initiating structure, which was given by the Ohio State University studies. Blake and Morton's managerial grid uses the two concerns for production and people and shows the various degrees between them and the various possible interactions between them. In the grid, the horizontal axis represented concern for production and the vertical axis represented concern for people. Each was expressed as a 9-point scale of concern. Number 1 represented minimum concern and number 9 represented maximum concern. There were 81 possible positions of leadership styles on the grid. However, there were 5 basic styles of leadership which are discussed below. Impoverished, also called the 1-1 leadership style, as the leader shows very low concern for both people and production. Country club, also called the 1-9 leadership style, as the leader shows very little concern for production and very high concern for people. Middle road, also called the 5-5 leadership style, as the leader shows moderate concern for both people and production. Task, also called 9-1 leadership style, as the leader shows very high concern for production and very low concern for people. Team, also called 9-9 leadership style, as the leader shows very high concern for both production and people. Hence, the 9-9 form of leadership style is the most optimum leadership style. This style is also called the super leader style. Now we will discuss upon the situational theory. In both the trait and behavioral theories of leadership, the leadership has not been linked with important performance indicators like production, efficiency and satisfaction. This is taken care of in the situational theory of leadership. Also in place of one best style of leadership, which is propounded by both the trait and behavioral theories of leadership, in situational theories, variables in each situation are analyzed before an optimum leadership style is selected. It is believed that leadership is a complex social and interpersonal process where a good and effective leader has to adapt himself to the differences among his subordinates and the situations prevailing in the organization. Based on these assumptions, 4 situational theories of leadership have been propounded. These are discussed in detail in the following paragraphs. First, Fadeless contingency model. Fadler was one of the first researchers to talk about leadership based on situation. In his contingency model, he told that the leader's effectiveness is partially contingent upon 3 situational variables, which are leader-members relation, the task structure, and the leader's position power. Let us now discuss them in detail. Task structure. Task structure measures the degree to which the task performed by subordinates is routine or non-routine in nature. They also refer to the degree to which the task requirements are clearly defined. Next, leader position power. It refers to the power inherent in the leader by virtue of his holding a position in an organization. It also refers to his authority over his subordinates and the degree to which his authority is supported by the organization. Next, leader-member relations. This refers to the degree of confidence, trust and respect followers have towards their leaders. If the followers have low trust, then the leader has to largely depend on task structure and position power, and if the trust is high, then the leader need not depend much on task structure and position power. Depending on these situational variables, Fadler developed 8 possible combinations ranging from highly favorable to unfavorable situations. A favorable situation is one where the leader-member relations are good. The task is highly structured and the leader has a lot of power to exert influence on the subordinates. On the other hand, in an unfavorable situation, the leader-member relations are poor, the task is unstructured and the leader has weak power in exerting influence on the subordinates. According to Fadler, a relationship-oriented style of leadership is best suited when the situation is favorable or moderately unfavorable. However, when the situation is highly favorable or highly unfavorable, a task-oriented style of leadership produces good results. The second is Howe's path-goal model. Robert J. Hughes propounded the path-goal model of leadership. Like other situational theories, the path-goal model 2 attempts to predict leadership effectiveness in different situations. In this model, the leaders are considered to influence the followers' motivation, their satisfaction level and their ability to perform. The word path goal is used because it is believed that the leaders smooth the path for the subordinates to work on the organizational goals, and once they have achieved the goals, they are duly rewarded by the leaders. The leaders motivate subordinates by clarifying the path to personal rewards that result from attaining work goals. The leader can increase the number and kind of rewards available to the subordinates. Also, he feels that by doing so, the subordinates will be motivated to work towards the accomplishment of the organizational goals. In a nutshell, the leaders are to do the following task: clear the path for the subordinates, clarify goals to the subordinates, provide support to the subordinates, provide rewards to the subordinates, find employees' needs and analyze situations. According to the path goal model, the leader can fulfill these tasks by adopting any one of the 4 behavioral styles. These styles are the following: supportive. In this form of leadership, the leader is friendly and approachable to his subordinates. He treats his subordinates as his equals and show concern for their well-being. Directive. In this form of leadership, the leader focuses on planning, organizing and coordinating the activities of the subordinates. Next, participative. The leader here consults the subordinates in making decisions. Next, achievement oriented. Here, the leader sets challenging goals for the subordinates and expects them to perform well and achieve the goals. Which behavioral leadership theory a leader chooses depends on two types of situational variables. These variables are the following. Characteristics of the subordinates. The style selected by the leader should be compatible with the abilities, needs, and personalities of the subordinates. If the subordinates are able, then supportive style may be adopted. If they are not able, then a directive style may be adopted. Work environment. The environmental variables are factors that are uncontrollable and are not within the control of the subordinate. These include task, formal authority, and the work group. If subordinates are working on highly unstructured jobs with a high degree of ambiguity in roles, then the leader's directives become very essential. In case the subordinates are working on structured and well-defined tasks, then leader's directives become redundant and the leader could just use a supportive leadership style to get the work done. The third is the life cycle theory of leadership. Paul Hersey and Kenneth Blanchard propounded the life cycle theory of leadership. This theory is based on a curvy linear relationship between task and relationships and maturity of subordinates. Hence, the leadership depends on an interplay among the three variables. Let us discuss these variables in detail. Task behavior. This behavior is seen in terms of the degree of guidance and direction a leader gives to his subordinates. Next, relationship behavior. This behavior is seen in terms of the degree of socio-emotional support provided by the leader to his subordinates. Next, maturity of subordinates. This behavior is seen in terms of the degree of readiness and willingness of the subordinates in performing a given task or their ability in taking responsibility for directing their own behavior. Ability is defined as the knowledge and skill of the subordinate to do the job and hence is also called job maturity. Willingness, on the other hand, will be defined as psychological maturity, which has to do with the confidence and commitment on the part of the subordinate to do a particular task. The life cycle theory suggests that the leader behavior to be effective must change as the subordinates mature. As the subordinates' level of maturity increases, the leader's behavior requires less structure and less support. According to the life cycle theory, the leader's behavior moves from high task, low relationship behavior to high task, high relationship behavior and from high relationship, low task behavior to low task, low relationship behavior as the subordinates become more mature. Based on this assumption, the life cycle theory has given 4 leadership styles for a given level of maturity. They are discussed below. Telling. When the subordinates are immature, both unable and unwilling to do the task, then they require specific directives from the leader. This calls for high task and low relationship behavior from the leader. Selling. When subordinates are moderately mature, unable but willing to do the task, then they require both directive and support from the leader. This calls for high task and high relationship behavior from the leader. Participating. When the subordinates are quite mature, able but unwilling to do the task, then they require adequate motivational force from the leader. This calls for high relationship and low task behavior on the part of the leader. Delegating. When the subordinates are fully mature, both able and willing to do the work, then they hardly require any directive or support from the leader. This calls for low relationship and low task behavior from the leader. The fourth one is Vroom's and Yetton normative model. Victor Vroom and Philip Yetton propounded a normative model of leadership which focused on the decision-making function of the leader. They believed that the effectiveness of leader is largely reflected in their track record of making right decisions. The model gave different kinds of situations in which various degrees of participation by subordinates are appropriate. The model is popularly called the decision participation model. Also, Vroom and Yettin consider situations as autocratic and participative and not the autocratic and participative leadership styles. According to them, the choice of leadership styles depends on the outcome of three variables, which are as follows. Decision quality or rationality. In organizations, some decisions are linked with employee performance and some are not. When decisions affect the subordinates and the subordinates possess the information and knowledge required to make the decisions, then the leader can use participative style of leadership. Decision acceptance. This refers to the degree of subordinate commitment to the decision. When they accept a decision as theirs and show tremendous interest in implementing them, then the leader in this case can easily follow the participative style of leadership. Time required to make decisions. When the leader has ample of time, then he can follow participative style of leadership in making decisions. Participation of subordinates in decision making is time consuming, but it increases group acceptance and also increase accuracy. The next in discussion is Transformational and Transactional theory. In the year 1978, James McGregor distinguished between transactional and transformational leadership. According to him, a transactional leader is one who leads primarily by using social exchanges or transaction. They motivate the subordinates to work towards the organizational goals in exchange for rewards. On the other hand, the transformational leader is one who is a visionary and who motivates subordinates to achieve high level of morality, motivation and performance. They change the overall outlook and perception of their subordinates and inspire them to exert extra effort to achieve group goals. Both these forms of leadership are not opposing each other. In fact, transformational leadership develops from transactional leadership. Summary. Till date, there is no universally accepted definition of the term leader or leadership. However, 5 characteristics and features that are associated with leaders are relationship, followership, situational, continuous process and psychological process. There are various forms of leadership styles: autocratic style, democratic style and free rein leadership style. According to the trait theory of leadership, a leader is defined as a person who has certain traits. Trait theory seeks to define a leader on the basis of what leaders are, whereas in behavioral theory, leaders are defined on the basis of what leaders do. The various behavioral theories given by researchers are the Michigan studies, the Ohio State University studies and the managerial grid study. In both the trait and behavioral theories of leadership, the leadership has not been linked with important performance indicators like production, efficiency and satisfaction. This is taken care of in the situational theory of leadership. The various situational theories are the Fadeless contingency model, the house path goal model and the life cycle theory of leadership and the Vroom's and Yettin's normative model. Transactional leader is one who leads primarily by using social exchanges or transactions. Transformational leader is one who is a visionary and who motivates subordinates to achieve high level of morality, motivation and performance.